Project for today is going to be this 2018 Honda CB500X. We're going to be putting a new set of handlebars on it. You can see this one, you can see the paint missing where it's kinked there. And it's kinked really bad right here. So they're really squished inward and up. So we got a new set of handlebars to throw on here. I'll get you set up in a stand and we'll get started. The first thing I'm going to do is pull the mirrors off just so we don't have those sticking up and hanging off the mount. Oh, those are really tight. It's just a 14mm wrench. You should be able to go between the nut on the top and hold the nut on the bottom and loosen that up, but this one is really tight. Well, maybe we'll just leave that one on there. I don't want to end up breaking anything on it. Just wants to spin the whole thing. Guess we'll leave them on. We got to take the mounts for them off anyway and transfer it onto the other bars. This one's got hand guards on it, so we'll have to take those off. It goes into the end of the bar here. It's a 5mm Allen head. Let's speed this up a little. And there's a clamp over there for it. Those are a little bit smaller. That's a 4mm. And we had a spacer here that fell out, so I'll have to make sure that goes back in. There's a wedge in here. We'll have to try to pound that out, because that's what that bolt goes into, and it expands the wedge to hold it in there. We'll do the same thing to the other side. I'll take the front brake off. Our bracket for the handguard kind of was stuck behind that. Get that out of there. We'll get this other bolt. I'll kind of just leave some of this stuff hanging here. This one's got a couple wires on it for your brake light switch. The outside one looks like black and yellow, maybe. And the inside one was a black and red. I'll have to remember that for reassembly. We'll get this throttle off of there. That's just a couple of Phillips screws. That part comes off separate. And this part we got our throttle cables hooked to. I don't think I have enough cable to just slide this off of here. I'm just going to take this ram mount off like that. I'm not going to worry about the throttle. I'm going to, because there's not enough slack to pull this off, and I don't want to mess with the adjustments and stuff, so I'm just going to take the 4 bolts out for the handlebars when we go to take them off, and then I'll just slide them out to the side so we have enough slack here, and then when we go to put them back on, we'll do the same thing. So then we need to work on the other side, get that clutch perch off of there, and then the switches here, and then that hand grip. Take these 2 8mm bolts out for the clutch perch. That also has a couple of wires hooked to it. That's kind of the same, the yellow and black's on the outside and the red and black's on the inside. I'll just let that hang out front. We've got a few zip ties we'll need to cut. And a couple more Phillips screws on them handlebar switches. Kind of got to slide up through the blinker switch there. I'll hang that down. I'll have to see if we can slide this grip off there. I'll grab something to cut that zip. Should be able to get under that now. Let's see if we have enough slack to get this grip off of here. It was spinning. One trick you can use if your grip is stuck on, if it has a complete end on it, which we still might be able to do it if I held on the end here, but you can spray air in the other end if it's sealed off, and it'll kind of push this off. Otherwise, sometimes you can get air to go under the grip too, but I think this has like heated grip on it. There we go. All right, and we're getting down there. Just take that off of there, and it should be ready to take those bolts out. And these here are 12mm bolts. You want to make sure to hang on to the bars when you do that, just in case it does fall. Usually they stay fairly clamped till you hit it for a second there. Let that sit for a second. Oh, we got one more zip tie. We'll slide it out of the throttle and let that hang down. And we got them out of there. There's a pretty good comparison between the old bars and the new ones. You can tell they were bent in pretty severely. Was kinked there. It was really kinked on that side. And these new ones, you can see it's just a nice sweeping bend. These are actual Handlebars. The part number is here if you're looking for bars. Hopefully it'll focus on there. Well, I gotta take this ram mount off and then we should be able to get started putting that together. We've gotta put our throttle back through like that. I think now that these bars are wider, I'm not sure if I can get this grip on that way, so I'm gonna put that on right away too. Then you want to make sure these grooves are lined up in the clamp here. That's kind of what helps clamp it down. And then of course have the Honda symbol facing up like that. We'll throw the bolts back in. Let that sit down, grab a socket. I'm not going to tighten them down right away. I want to get them just loosely in there. So I want to be able to move the bars still. We'll kind of sit on the bike, get them positioned. It's kind of rider preference on where you want the bars, but I can get them close and then the customer can get them aligned the way she wants them. So I sat on the bike and kind of got them positioned how I would want them. And I got the ram mount still loose, I'll tighten that down. Just gonna get these screws started before I get it to the position I want it. Easier to see what you're doing when you can pivot it around. Normally if you didn't have all this stuff, the accessories on here, it wouldn't be quite as long of a job, but this bike was kind of outfitted for adventure riding. It's got the knobby tires on it and stuff. This one only had 3 screws in it out of the 4. And now we'll put the clutch perch back on. And there's arrows on these that say up, so you want to make sure those are still in the up position. We'll just snug those down. That positioned okay, I think. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is just rider preference, so you almost have to let the person riding it decide what they like for positioning of stuff. But these are easy enough to adjust, and just loosen them and tip it forward and back however you want. With the wires hooked back up, now we can go to the other side and do the throttle and the switches and stuff over there, the front brake. We'll put this back in here. There's some wires that have to go in a slot there, and then kind of just pops back together. This one's not too difficult. The throttle feels a little bit sticky still. So one thing I failed to mention is there is a little hole here in the bar, and that coincides with the handlebar switches. So when it clamps around, there's a little pin that goes in there so you get the switches positioned right. So the first time that I put it on, I didn't quite, must have slid off to the side a little bit when I clamped it down, and that caused the throttle to be a little bit tight. So now I can pull it and then just let go, and it pops back. Otherwise, you don't want it to just stay like that when you let off and end up causing an accident or something. So now we got that situated. Now I can throw the front brake back on. It seems pretty good. I don't really want to over torque these either. They're just a pretty small bolt. I'll have to grab a couple new zip ties to throw on there. We got to get the hand guards back on too. We'll have to pull those little wedges out of the end of the bars. So I've got the old bars here in the vise. I just threaded the bolt in a little bit, and you can see the little wedge here, and that locks in there, and when you tighten it down, it expands the end to lock those hand guards in. So I just threaded that in to pull that out. I'll do the same on the other side. It came out a little ways when I pulled them off of there, but this one's a little bit more stubborn. I might have to tap it in to get that out of there first. Get the wedge out. And then that popped back out of there too. So we'll go slide those in the new bars, and then we'll get the handguards on. I'm gonna try putting it together a little bit like that. I just threaded that in there, and then we'll see if we can get it to slide over far enough to get in there. That right up to our spacer. And we'll get our clamp on the other side. I won't tighten that down until I tighten this side. Get our wedge seated in there good. That should be good for that side. And we'll do pretty much the same thing on the other side, and this one will be good. Well, they seem like they work pretty good. It feels pretty natural riding. I think they're in a pretty good position. Maybe lean back just a little bit would help a little, but I'll leave it the way it is for now. This is a little bit unusual one for the channel. I don't do too much motorcycle stuff, but I like to do a few motorcycle repairs here and there, so I'll have a few videos with motorcycle stuff. Friday we'll be back to something small engine. But if you like this sort of thing, like the videos and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.